like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses. Come fill me again. Come let me love you. Let me give my life to you. Let me drown in your laughter. Let me die in your arms. Let me lay down beside you. Let me always be with you. Oh, come, let me love you. Come, love me again. You fill up my senses like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses. Come fill me again. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la.
On behalf of Charles, Max, Sarah, all of Chris's family, thank you for being here this afternoon as together we do one of the hardest things we do as human beings. We grieve the loss of someone we loved. A service like this functions as a kind of time machine. It takes us back through time and the events of our lives, for better and for worse. I've known Chris since she was 12 years old. Some of you have known her longer, some of you better, but together we remember. But we're not alone. Some of you may know this line from the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, or in another translation, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, or with us. Will you pray with me? God, we stop and we search for words to speak, and then we listen. We hear some of your words, and are comforted, because there we find hope and promise. You know the loss that we feel with Chris's death. But we also express to you our gratitude for her life with us. Comfort us now with your presence in our time together, we pray. In the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen. None of us is here without bearing the influence of other people in our lives. No one is an island. So our reason for being here together today is clear. It's because we loved Chris. We've come to remember her life. We've come to acknowledge that she has died. And we've come to continue the sometimes long process of saying goodbye. We've also gathered to share the experience of her life and death with one another, to ask that in the midst of whatever we're thinking and feeling around Chris's death, that God, our family, and our friends would be with us. You may know the story in the Gospel of John when told his friend Lazarus had died, Jesus wept. It was the shortest verse in the Bible till they renumbered a while back. We don't have any information about Lazarus. We don't know whether he was young or old, whether he'd been ill a long time or a short time. That was all irrelevant. Didn't matter. Someone he loved died, and he wept. When we're told that someone who has touched us, someone who has given us life, someone with whom we have shared life, to be told that person has died gives us a sense of loss. We are bereaved. The word means robbed. We've been robbed of a future with Chris. So like Jesus, we weep. Maybe tears of sadness, grief. Maybe tears of relief that Chris does not have to have another day of suffering or linger with a less than human life. Maybe tears of gratitude for her life with us. The poet Rilke has a line. This isn't exactly it. It's a paraphrase. But the line is, the deadliest death is to be alive and not know it. The deadliest death is to be alive and not know it. Well, Chris knew it. And she helped others know it. One of the ways that we make both life and death real, one of the ways we put our experiences into context is to share them. That sharing helps us to gather up some of the different parts of Chris's life so that we can be grateful for it, entrust her now to God, and remember. We are narrative human beings. We have to tell our stories. So today we will hear some poem stories and music stories that reflect Chris, and we will hear some word stories, eulogies, from the Greek, eu, meaning good, and logos, meaning speech or words, good words about a person who's died. The problem with eulogies for Chris is not finding good words, is when to stop. There's so many. But they don't have to stop here at this place. You can tell them for the rest of your lives. Charles and I had lunch on Wednesday, and he showed me the draft of the bulletin, and I looked at it and I said, February 14th, that's Valentine's Day. She was a Valentine. And he said, not by chance. So for this Valentine, Chris, we begin with a poem, Across the Threshold, read by her friend Cheyenne Cole.
Okay. What an honor.
This is a poem by a local poet, Laura Weaver. This is what Kristen and I would do. We'll do it for her. Yeah? What if death were not a failure, but the bright blossom of our green age, not annihilation, but miracle? What if, in our dying, we become the imaginal cells of a metamorphic universe that is always turning into a butterfly? What if death is not a cutting, but a rooting, not a cessation, but an engagement to a lover who will lead you to the river of forgetting so that you can take your next breath of remembering? What if death is not a nightmare, but a gallop on a silver horse through the doorways of twilight? What if we simply become rhizomes in the great fields of calla lilies, gramophones of the universe playing all the soul songs human beings ever sang as we walked along the shorelines of thousands of lifetimes? What if death is not a reaper, but a sower, not a demon, but a companion? What if we had plenty of time? Because this essence of us never followed a clock. What if we are going over the rushing falls to the cool pools beneath where carp swim with our great, great grandchildren who are just preparing to dive into a body? We remember you, Kiki.
Thank you, Cheyenne. If you read Chris's blogs, you see several recurring themes. A couple of them are captured in this song by James Taylor. Speak up and show love. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are going to be much better if you only will.
You can play the game, you can act out the part, though you know it wasn't written for you. Tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing a fool? One thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother and sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Do as I say. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. You can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. Now what you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel. All Shower the people you love with love and show them the way you feel. I know things are gonna be just fine if you only will. What I'd like to do to you, shower the people you love with love, show them the way you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will.
The Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote that with all the things that seduce us away from our authentic selves, we have to, quote, fight for inner liberty. Well, Chris engaged that struggle, and it brought a deep sense of the gracefulness and the sacredness of the ordinary. Hear this poem read by Kim Pickus.
Hi,
As he
I am
said,
Sonomi de Villiers. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share the effects.
sorry.
Sorry about
Just gonna wait. So this is a poem called Ordinary Things by Uli Kay, who is a Canadian poet. I am in love with the ordinary things of life: fresh air, acts of kindness, old soul conversations, watching things grow, listening to the rain as it empties its heart towards earth, remembering the times I ran through it, unafraid, spontaneous, freedom-filled. I find pure joy in the joy of others. I am drunk on simplicity and nostalgia and old thrift shops run by volunteers who just want to change the world one human at a time. I greet the morning with eyes that still have remnants of pain, but will see their way through it. I am determined to create something beautiful every day, whether art or peace or a path for those who are lacking in light. I wish for nothing more than soft hands filled with giving. This is where I find my rest.
There's a line somewhere in one of Chris's blogs about perfection isn't all it's cracked up to be, so it's good to have a little glitch here now and then. You know that Chris and Charles lived in South Africa for several years. Those years and those relationships are an important part of her story. So this video that we will now see is from a good friend there. Watch.
Hi, I am Sonomi de Villiers. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share the effects that Chris has on my life. I must tell you about our unique friendship over the last 30 years. It started when Chris joined Liberty in 1993, and she just immediately fitted into our friendship group. Here, from left, Monique, Tracy, Chris, Elby, and me. We all worked in different departments in HR, and we had our kids together. Chris walked into our lives with what Elby calls her melodious laugh, her stylish Joe Bouquet outfits, greeting us with a friendly "Howdy, neighbor" over the office dividers. It was at the same time that Liberty started a creche, and most of our kids were there. But because it was new, there were lots of opportunity for improvement, and we shared our feedback. And because we were in HR, we became the mouthpiece for quite a few of the moms. But unfortunately, our feedback wasn't always received so positively. And at one stage, we were called a festering cesspool. Now, even though it sounds really negative, it's just indicative of our friendship, of what we did. We laughed about it. We decided to turn things around and embrace it. And we proudly started calling ourselves the Festers. The way that we handled things was a clear reflection of how we attracted the positive side of situations. We are unique in the sense that we seek the very best in one another, and then we recognize and amplify that. Chris played a pivotal role in this. Over the years, our friendship grew deeper. We supported one another through the death of various of our loved ones. Divorces, weddings. Here we are at beautiful Elby's wedding. Immigration and relocation, motherhood, illnesses, and now death. From physically helping me to get out of bed when I was depressed, to making me laugh, having long conversations, loving me unconditionally, and reminding me of my brilliance. Chris was one of my strongest supporters. This photo reminds me of how we love to laugh. It's one of the things Monique said she will remember most about Chris. She was one of the wisest voices in the group. Strong, supportive, compassionate, willing to discuss any topic, and saying those things that we needed to hear. Her wisdom ranged from, "Hey gals, how would you like to look 5 pounds lighter?" And then she would adjust our postures and we would look 5 pounds lighter. To, on more serious issues, listening deeply and then sharing some sort of tool or technique, information, wise words, or some life experience. One of the things Tracy said she will remember is Chris's intelligence. In her personal style, the words she drafted, the crafts she created, the gifts she chose, her home, her marriage, her parenting, and her conversations with us. She was my mentor with so much dignity and super high EQ. When I asked her about a month ago how she deals with things, thinking it might be the last time, she looked at me and she frowned and she said, "It doesn't even cross my mind." That's how ingrained her optimism and living in the moment was. The way that Chris dealt with her cancer taught me how to live my life. These words, written by Leo Buscaglia, epitomizes Chris. Like the spider, they are those of us who refuse to stop spinning, even when it would appear to be far more sophisticated, to be without hope. Our rope, though perhaps frail, can still be spun with optimism, curiosity, wonder, love, and the sincere desire to share a trip to the stars. Our goal is worth the struggle, for in this case, the star to which we aspire to is full humanity for all. That's who Chris was. Chris, thank you for being my role model. You inspired me to live my life to the fullest, to laugh, to love unconditionally, to forgive, and to face death with dignity. Our hearts are broken. Thank you.
As I said, as you read Chris's blogs, you see several recurring themes. This one is the tag on her homepage. I feel for you and want to help. So this song by Carole King is very fitting. It says James Taylor, but it's Carole King. It's okay. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call and I'll be there. You got a friend.
When you're down and troubled and you need some loving care, and nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah. You got a friend. If the sky above you grows dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow, oh, keep your head together and call my name out loud, and soon you'll hear me knocking at your door. Oh, you just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, yeah, see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. Now desert you, that take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. Oh, you just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, running, yeah, see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. You got a friend, you've got a friend. Ain't it good to know, ain't it good to know you got a friend. Yeah, you got a friend.
Eulogy, eulogos, good words about someone who's died. This from Mary, who was Chris's maid of honor at their wedding.
Good afternoon. It is very much an honor to be one of the persons here today to talk about Chris and our love for her. And I feel a little overwhelmed by Cheyenne's poem and Kim's poem and Sonomi's comments and the Reverend's. But all the common themes come through about Chris. Charles told me I had as much time as I wanted to speak today. I've a little bit taken him up on that because I have about 1 million words I'd like to say, but I will try to get through it without the need for an intermission. Chris and I met in the 80s as account executives at Porter Novelli in Washington, D.C. There she was, gorgeous, full of life smile, that smile that we saw in all those slides. Big shoulder pads, patent leather shoes, headband, oozing confidence. She was a level above me and light years ahead of me. She was experienced from her time in PR in Colorado, and a naturally gifted writer and intuitive strategically. We worked together on a project for the American Cancer Society, which saw us traveling the United States, hearing testimony from economically disadvantaged individuals about their difficult experiences with cancer. And the hearings culminated in a report to the nation called Cancer and the Poor, with all the media watching. Our friendship was fast solidified by the importance of the work we were doing, but also by the much needed relief from the intensity and the emotional sense of the project. We shared laughter and camaraderie as we chatted away in airports and on planes and in hotels. And after the hearing in Phoenix, Arizona, we took an impromptu vacation to zip around in a convertible, just being 20-somethings with very 80s hair, singing along with the FM radio blasting. I loved those days. The work Chris did for the American Cancer Society is now part of her beautiful legacy. Her other work at the agency focused on social marketing and health-related projects. Her talent was on full display, and she was deeply respected by her clients for the quality of the work and for her intense output. And in her off hours, she pursued graduate-level courses, of course, and we had such fun together, also with our dear friends from Porter Novelli, Kim and Kathy, who are here today. Parties, road trips, happy hours, girl talk, late hours at work. We had one run-in with the police, with 2 other work friends. We were pulled over by the police in the shadow of the Capitol building for driving erratically. We all had open drinks of alcohol hidden between our feet. We were sure our 4 careers were over and that we would be fired as soon as we all got our DWIs, but the police officer let us off. For 2 girls who always towed the line, that was pretty risky business. Our offices were directly across from each other, tucked into a corner of the building. Chris had the window. I did not, but I loved her anyway. During those years, we stitched together a friendship for life. One day, Chris, ever seeking knowledge, told me she was nominated for and accepted to a week-long program at the University of Oxford. Upon her return, I jokingly asked her if she had met her husband. We were happy 20-somethings living in Washington, D.C. We were not looking to settle down. But when lightning strikes, it strikes. Chris, beaming, replied, "Yep, I did." I was shocked, but who wouldn't want to marry Chris within a week? Chris and Charles's whirlwind, wonderful, and crazy romance zipped along quickly in a blur of goosey love, culminating in a gorgeous, snowy Christmas wedding in Colorado. A bunch of us hung around after the wedding for a few days to honeymoon with them in the Colorado mountains. No offense to my amazing husband, but it was the most fun honeymoon getaway ever. We had a ball, and in a blink, Chris and Charles scampered off to begin their life together in South Africa. It was amazing how Chris embraced life in South Africa. It wasn't an easy adjustment, but Chris dug in so impressively, and just seeing Sonomi's comments here, you see how these relationships she formed so deeply and so quickly. It's amazing. She went to work learning and working and becoming part of the community, new girlfriends, family there. It wouldn't have been an easy transition for anyone, a new marriage and moving halfway around the world to what felt like a tumultuous country. But watching her from afar navigate it all with enthusiasm and confidence was breathtaking. What I loved so much, too, was receiving Chris's letters from there. We all know what gorgeous handwriting Chris has and how she wrote in stunning lyrical prose. When the world seemed to have stopped writing longhand, Chris's hand never seemed to get weary writing detailed descriptions of and stories about her life in Africa. The words themselves, the way she strung them together, the depth and knowledge conveyed in the words. They are beautiful keepsakes for me, and I plan to give them to Max and Sarah, although I'm going to redact some of the dishy girl talk between Chris and me that are in them. Say no more. I loved the big brain in Chris's head. We've heard it several times, what a smart person she was. She was almost intimidatingly smart, and for me, she definitely was intimidatingly smart. She was innately curious and had a thirst for learning, and she could do a New York Times crossword puzzle in about 15 minutes. I'm still working on Mondays. I saw someone post this week about Chris being a polymath. I had to look that up because I am not a polymath. But it means a person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning. Every day seemed to bring a new thing that Chris immersed herself in to discover or learn how to do. Life and culture in South Africa, travel, history, politics, Charles's business, embroidery, her business, watercolors, computer programs, writing, courses of all sorts. How long did I have? I could go on. She was so smart. Just 3 weeks ago, Chris beat Sarah at a game, and Sarah is the second smartest person I know. Chris marched confidently and read manuals and books to become an expert, and then openly shared her newly discovered world for others' benefit. As one friend said, she was a seeker, always searching to understand herself, her relationships, and her life experience, especially within unique psychological frameworks, and then sharing her learning for the benefit of others. Chris flowed into different careers so fearlessly and with increased purpose. Her life beyond her PR career morphed into a self-taught career in sustainability in South Africa, which then morphed into a lifelong mission to raise others up and to help others find and live into their strengths, to leave behind their insecurities, to discover what they should be doing, to find purpose, to communicate, to celebrate everything. Whether through her gorgeously written blogs, articles, Facebook page, her book called I Speak, which was a guide on how to navigate difficult conversations, her work with students, professionals, individuals, and so many more outlets, Chris led others to find or reclaim their flame. She wasn't afraid to open up and draw upon her own challenges and insecurities to help others. And she always told her friends or acquaintances what she thought was special about them, or she wrote cards to them filled with encouragement and love. This week, Charles and I were talking about how incredibly smart she was, and Charles said that she could have done anything in life. She could have gone to any career because she's so analytically smart, and she digs in deep, and she remembers everything. And she also has a creative mind, but I think it's so brilliant and honorable, and it's her legacy that she chose to put all of that into this career of helping others, to lifting others in this life. In the most recent years, Chris expressed frustration. Her expertise in her field of life, career, leadership, and team coaching, with a long line of credentials and certifications to support it all, was substantial, and she was driven to help others. But she felt that given her treatment and COVID, she couldn't commit to or market or reach out as much as or in the way that she wanted to. This week, I read through many messages people have posted or emailed about Kristen. The words, a light in this world, appeared so many times. Or Chris encouraged me to do X. Or Chris taught me about X. Or because of Chris, or Chris exemplified authenticity, resilience, inner power and peace, gratitude and love, and self-love, but always love. The words were also similar about how Chris lifted people's lives. It makes me so happy to know she knows now that her work and the way she related to people made them feel heard and important and loved and lifted. And with her cancer journey, Chris opened up even more and shared that all too. Writing about her cancer experience for 2 breast cancer organizations and sharing her experience on a podcast. She modeled for the Breast Cancer Alliance. She was one of 12 women who walked the runway in front of 1,100 women, demonstrating strength and life and inspiring them all with her very personal story, which no doubt pushed other women to get checked and see their doctors. Chris, always letting others light their candles from her journey and leading with love. And I need a sip of water before my next comment. Thank you. On the subject of love, our girl, born on the February 14th, was destined to manifest love that ran deep. First, Max and Sarah. For some, the transition from working woman to mother can be difficult, but it wasn't for Chris. She soaked in the time, was quiet and peaceful with the kids, delighted in every bit of your existence. She was never rushed with you. For about 5 years, the Carters lived in New York, near my family, and we cherished the cozy dinners together and play dates and the creative and bizarre and other utterly weird plays the kids all created together. Chris always let her kids be themselves and celebrated that. She never gave in to trying to squish them into a mold that didn't fit. And thank God, because who they are unto themselves, and with the support of Chris and Charles, are two really remarkable, smart, creative, family-oriented, close to each other, and full of heart individuals, as we have seen so brilliantly in the last years, but especially and so utterly profoundly in these last months. Chris's other great love, of course, Charles. I love bearing witness to their pairing of minds and hearts, steadily respectful of each other, always chuckling slyly together, engaging in intellectual conversations, and proud of each other's accomplishments. Always happy to have a lunch date together or run errands in each other's company. And bound together with deep love to deal with the toughest of times. I loved how they so purposefully and resolutely moved to a remote home, choosing peace, beauty, nature, and togetherness. The wilderness home became a beautiful sanctuary for all four of them, and Maria and Gil, and a perfect setting for Max's wedding and Maria's wedding, even with a monstrous thunder and lightning storm, and a great place to sit in the hot tub together while a mountain lion or moose was about, and a sublime escape for those of us lucky enough to visit and puzzle together for hours. I loved hiking there with Kristen too, although she had less of a fear of lions and bobcats and bears than me. And I loved when I'd call and hear that the Carters were all snuggled in the sofa watching rugby or cooking together, or Chris was snuggled in quietly writing or keeping up with her journal entries. She had a deep, abiding love and an ever-deepening relationship with her dad, Bruce. And I've been so happy Chris had him there for her, for sage advice, love, and support. Chris loved her mom so deeply and took such careful and purposeful care of her Dar when she needed her the most. I just know they're dancing and singing hymns in heaven right now, probably little James Taylor, maybe Carole King as well. I know how Chris kept her brothers and nieces, loved ones, Rebecca, and friends here in Denver and friends across the world and in South Africa, so close to her. And as time got short, Chris focused on being on the big little things for her family. She made photo albums and stitched embroidery as gifts. She wrote cards with advice, filled in a whole book Max gave her on things about herself as a keepsake. Her legacy of love is rich. As we all are, I'm grateful for Chris's friendship, her support, her non-judgmental, quiet listening, her gentle and mindful input. Through the years, we've laughed hard, we've cried hard, we've listened with our hearts, and we've walked in silence. And much to Charles's dismay, we also shopped like Super Bowl champs. She's a great shopper. We took some great trips with Kathy and Kim in recent years, laughing our heads off when bowling in Miami or on the beach or sipping margaritas. Chris loved margarita in Santa Fe or hiking in Vail. She loved going up to see Max and Maria in Portland recently, and this hot air balloon in Steamboat Springs in that weekend with Sarah. Very, very special time. My love for Chris is deep and the memories etched in my heart. Chris was remarkable in how she managed through these years, and even the last hours with grace, gratitude, love, fierceness, acceptance, and more than a few, oh, for F's sake, when things got really tough. I need to take a moment here to say this. Charles, Max, and Sarah, with the utterly selfless support of Maria and Gil, were absolutely extraordinary. As their pure, raw love guided them in making all time with Chris as peaceful, loving, and comfortable as possible. Their lives were put on hold to be present in the constant, steady way they were. Max being at home with Chris full-time for a few months, and Sarah by Chris's side, while balancing her work and school in a superhuman way. They were there taking Chris to appointments or running errands with her or driving her to her favorite breakfast in Boulder or to pick up some stitchery or a puzzle or a book in town or attending doctor's appointments. I'd ask Chris who was taking her, and she'd sometimes say, everyone was. And I loved thinking of the four of you arm in arm, united. Max and Sarah asked questions and remembered medical jargon details, which was a gift to Chris. Sometimes she couldn't remember, and sometimes she didn't want to. Just a few weeks ago, she sent a picture of herself in their sunny, gorgeous yard, watching Max and Sarah and Gil play rugby. She could not have been happier. Charles, Max, and Sarah were loving and patient and completely giving and utterly present. And as Sarah said, the three of them have been drawn together even deeper in opening up their pain to each other. Chris was completely lifted through this last journey by her favorite three people in the world, laying on her couch knowing they were all around her. To say it wasn't easy is an understatement, and Charles, Max, and Sarah can always carry with them the knowledge of their remarkable, impossibly heartbreaking, love-driven walk with Chris. So now what? That's what Chris always said whenever you had something that you presented to her. She accepted it and said, so now what? To help you think of what the next thing was, to help you deal with that. And so here we are. We have to figure out what's next. Well, there's some things that Chris leaves behind for us. I was up early this morning reading through many of her writings, either the email ones or the Facebook ones that she posted. And I think for everybody, they're worth a reread because she really was brilliant in what she put on paper. She was passionate about teaching about the 5 regrets of the dying, and there's a piece in the program about that. It was important to her to teach people not to have those regrets and to work towards that as a goal. And I think we can all really be comforted that she did not leave with those regrets. She did not have those regrets, and that's a real gift. Chris kept 2 messages taped to her computer, her guideposts. One was, the essence of life is to communicate love. And the other is, until further notice, celebrate everything. I'm going to tape them to my computer. Maybe we all should put them on our computers because they're pretty good. Chris's legacy will be long and light, and her presence will forever be here. We will forever feel her presence here until we can be with her there. I close with this. It's from a song. It was marvelous to know you, and it isn't really through. Crazy, this business, this life we live in. Can't complain about the time we are given with so little to be sure of in this world. We had a moment, a marvelous moment, a beautiful time. Rest well, our beautiful, remarkable Kristen. I love you.
When Mary said she had 15 to 20 minutes, I thought, oh boy. But you have a knack with words too, and those were good words. Thank you. This next song is a hymn, actually, Be Thou My Vision. It was sung at Chris and Charles' wedding and at Sarah's baptism. This version is by Van Morrison, not the brown-eyed girl Van Morrison. This is by Sir George Ivan Morrison, who also goes by Van Morrison. He's a musician from Northern Ireland. Christ of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, thou ruler of all.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Not be all else to be save that thy art. Thou my best thought in the day and the night. Waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, be thou my true word. I ever with thee and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father and I thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling and I with thee one. Be thou my breastplate, my sword for the fight. Be thou my armor and be thou my might. Thou my soul shelter and thy my high tower. Raise down the heavenwards, O power of my power. Riches I need not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance through all of my days. Thou and thou only, the first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. O High King of heaven, when battle is done, grant heaven's joy to me, bright heaven's sun. Christ of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, O ruler of all. Da 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 da.
Let me start by thanking all of you for traveling to be here. Some of you have traveled very far to be here. Really value that. And thank you for all the people who are online. And hopefully the streaming is working. If not, I'm sure I'll hear about it later. But very special for you to all be here. Thank you. Thank you also to the Jensen and Hansen families for their love and support throughout a long, difficult journey, and also for you being here today. I also want to thank Dr. Jennifer Diamond and the amazing staff at the Anschutz Hospital. You know, Chris, when she was diagnosed 5.5 years ago, was told by her first oncologist that on average, the lifespan with her diagnosis was probably 3.5 years. And then she decided, well, that's not the right oncologist for her. So we were incredibly fortunate to find Dr. Jennifer Diamond, who's the leader in a field at Anschutz Teaching Hospital in Denver. And I have no doubt she gave Chris many more years than the other oncologist would have. And very special staff there, for which we're very grateful. Also, thank you to Cheyenne and Kim and Sunui and Mary. Mary, that was really an amazing, amazing contribution. Thank you so much. And thank you to Dr. Dick Evans. Dick has walked a pathway with our family over many years. As he's mentioned, he married us, Kristen, Sarah. And when I sought him out this last week, it had been after a long absence, and he was kind of hesitant, and I thought, oh dear, should have probably kept up with him over the years. And he said, no, he's hesitant because this is going to be really hard for him, and it's hard for all of us. But thank you, Dick. Very special to have you do this for us. And you know, when Dick married us just over 32 years ago, and we said our wedding vows, and as you've heard, we barely knew each other. And certainly we had no concept of what in sickness and health would mean. What we did know was that we wanted to take the risk together and try to figure it out. As the poem Kristen read at Max and Maria's wedding last year states, I do means I do want your love, and I do give you mine, and nothing we do will ever be the same because you and I will be doing it together. As Mary's mentioned, we live in a beautiful home in the mountains surrounded by national forest. And a while ago, Chris and I were having coffee on the deck, and we watched a little baby bird leave its nest for the first time. And I said to Chris, you know, can you imagine what that's like, just jumping off and having to figure it all out right at the get-go? And I think the point I was trying to make was that humans are so needy, and you know, some people never leave the nest, but Chris kind of nodded and ignored that. And then she picked it up in one of her blogs, and I quote, I thought, hell yes, I can imagine what that feels like. It would be like leaving my parents' house with all my belongings in my little gray Toyota Tercel, bound for my first big job in Washington, D.C. Or the feeling I had getting off the plane for the first time in my new home of Johannesburg, South Africa. Being the new girl at 7 different schools. Meeting someone on an overseas trip and saying yes when he asked me to marry him 8 days later. I felt vulnerable and unsure what would happen next. Nervous, a little excited, like a baby bird on my first trip out of the nest. Trembly. Each time I responded in much the same way. I'm curious, so I asked questions and was interested in the new people and things. I love learning, so I'd pore over maps and later Google what I wanted to know more about. I'm friendly, so I got to know people and let them get to know me. I'm optimistic, so I looked for the good and hoped for the best. Kristen moved many times with me as my career took different turns, uprooting her own career and home and family and friends again and again. I'm extremely grateful for her willingness to do this and for her ability to help me also adjust each time as I took on new work opportunities. I'm also grateful that we moved back to the States with sufficient time for her to connect fully with her mother before she died and with her own extended family, especially Bruce and Rebecca over the last several years. And of course, to be able to connect in person with so many great friends who've spanned the arc of her life, many of whom are here today, and you've heard such lovely things said about those friendships. Right from the get-go, Kristen had immense courage to venture into the unknown. There's so many twists and turns in our marriage where this courage was on display. And certainly the last 5.5 years with her stage 4 cancer diagnosis has seen her courage on full display, and everyone here has witnessed that in different ways. They have also witnessed her unfailing grace and beauty under fire, and her amazing ability to spread love and learning, even as the cancer journey got tougher and tougher. As recently as the last 3 months, she was still making new friends. Not casual friendships, but deep friendships. And as all of you know, she would strike up meaningful conversation with anybody. In the grocery line at checkout. It used to drive me nuts. But that's why there are usually 2 parents, so children can see the differences and figure out which characteristics and attributes work for them. In Kristen, Max, and Sarah have an amazing mother who has given them a rich inventory of life, learning, profound love, and authentic connection. I know that Max has her unguarded embrace of people for who they are and a curiosity to connect with anyone he meets, and that Sarah has my caution and calibration before opening up. But as the kids will tell you, even I have started to soften my engagement with total strangers. We have all learned from Kristen's compassion and ability to lean into her essential self, even when it would have been much easier to feel sorry for herself and hate the world for what it was doing to her health. Her courage, grace, and beauty and adventurous spirit was on full display even very recently when she drove herself to the airport, got on a plane, flew to Oregon to visit Max and Maria, hired a car, stayed in a hotel, drove herself around, and came back. And much against anybody's sense of what was doable at the time. And then, as Mary mentioned, she took Sarah off for a weekend to Steamboat Springs recently, where they played board games and cards, drank margaritas, and flew in a hot air balloon at sunrise. And that was much to my trepidation, because I really didn't want to lose the 2 women I love in my life in one go. But she did it, and they survived. After that, she took Sarah off to to a local nursery to do some flower arranging class. And these flowers are modeled on the arrangement she did. They're natural, local wildflowers. And so she was forever creating, right until weeks ago. As Mary has mentioned and Sonomi has mentioned, she worked diligently and quietly to love and learn, constantly connecting with the world in taking on new ventures. She focused her own energy on her capacity to love in all directions, and in her own words, she saw herself as an agent of brightness. In the process, I learned to support her in ways that I could, which often meant giving her space and support to be her true self and to venture into new terrains. And as things got progressively tougher in the last few months, she hunkered down with the 3 of us and moved to what she could do in the last month or so, which was needlework. Even here, it was about new learning, new techniques, buying stuff, and making things for the kids as keepsakes. Certainly her courage to fight cancer as long as she did gave her time to be intentional about marking milestones with the family. Mary mentioned the albums she made at Christmas for each of us. She was unbelievably intentional, diligent, and giving throughout these last years. And I know that some of you are probably feeling that you wish you had spent more time with her recently, and you probably have regrets. I can tell you that she didn't have energy for much more than what she was doing with the kids. And you know, she really spent the time with Max and Maria and Sarah, Maria and Gil at times, and myself in the way that she wanted to. And that meant there was very little energy left for anybody else. And certainly the last few weeks were brutal on her body and her mind. And Mary has really captured this exceptionally well, that Max and Sarah have been remarkable in being there every step of the way and in giving such unconditional love and support that she knew it was finally okay to let go. Her actual passing after some very rough days was very peaceful. And I think she finally let go when the kids were telling her how much they loved her and what fun things they'd done together. And she saw that we were all talking and laughing and loving. And she probably felt, you know what, these guys are going to be okay without me, physically. It was remarkably peaceful. I have great relief knowing that Kristen's spirit is free and able to travel far and wide across space and time, and that her suffering is over. I know that her spirit would have immediately been embraced by a Scandinavian matriarchy of Hansens and Jensens and many others who she loved on earth. That spirit clan would have complimented her on keeping the annual Christmas lefse-making party going over the years. They likely would have tut-tutted that she embraced needlework so late in life. But I also know that if there was a spirit card, dice, Scrabble, or other board game to be had, she would have immediately kicked their spirit butts. And for this, that Scandinavian matriarchy in the skies would quietly be beaming with pride, even if they are soon to realize that it's no fun losing every game. So we must truly celebrate a remarkable life, and we must find ways to deal with our pain and loss. Chris would want us to grow outwards in this moment, not inwards, and she would want us to draw on our own strengths in connecting with each other and living the life that we each aspire to. As she wrote so practically and profoundly in one of her cancer blog posts about her own condition, and Mary touched on this, and I quote, "What's required here is radical acceptance. As the life coach Martha Beck says, so what, now what? What do we do with the reality that is staring us in the face? The answer is we embrace it. This is our truth, right now, in this moment. Once we've done that, we can move forward. Until we accept what's real, we carry our future dreams around like a giant piece of baggage. Acceptance and setting down that bag of hopes and dreams will require some grieving. Let yourself mourn for what you've hoped for. Then you can begin looking for what is actually around you and go from there, perhaps even discovering new hopes and dreams." She was an amazing writer, so clear, so precise, so profound. And as everyone who's spoken today has touched on, that'll stay with all of us in different ways. She was interviewed on a podcast a while ago called Bump in the Road. And you know, the weird thing about the world we live in with the internet is that those things don't go away when the person dies. So I was listening to it this morning. It's a beautiful interview. So I would, if you haven't heard it, Google Bump in the Road podcasts and Kristen Carter, and you'll hear some profound insights into how she thought about what to do in the world with stage 4 cancer. There's a book of hers out there. You're welcome to take a copy. And as Dick and Mary have mentioned, read her blogs. They are truly amazing. So in conclusion, I had this thought. It's an oft-quoted one. Through a glass darkly and then face to face. My life with Kristen certainly had those moments when we did not have clarity or had to work through an imperfect vision together. But after 32 years of marriage, I think we had begun to figure it out. And I have massive conviction right now that her transformative life and love will endure in all of us in its many different manifestations. And that gives me strength and hope and clarity to move forward. Thank you.
This is kind of repetitive, but a debilitating illness tests a person's mettle, but clearly Chris met that with courage and grace, but it tests a family's mettle too, and so Charles and Sarah and Max, you met that with courage and grace too. I mentioned that a service like this is kind of like a time machine. The family, Charles and Sarah and Max, put together some pictures, and Max did the video editing. Let's watch this time machine.
Oh, all the money that I spent it in good company, and all the harm that I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Oh, all the comrades that I've had are sorry for my going away, and all the sweethearts that I've had would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night and joy be with you all. Shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean that I love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. When you get up in There's a train leaving nightly cold when all is said and done. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sometimes when you're doing simple things around the house, maybe you think of me and smile. You know I'm tied to you like the buttons on your blouse. Keep me in your heart for a while. Well, hold me in your thoughts, take me to your dreams, touch me when I fall into view. When the winter comes, keep the fires lit, and I will be right next to you. Engine drivers headed north up to Pleasant Street. Keep me in your heart for a while. These wheels keep on turning, but they're running out of steam. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Oh, keep me in your heart for a while. Keep me in your heart for a while.
John Donne wrote, no man is an island entire of itself. Any man's death diminishes me. We are diminished by Chris's death, yes, but also inspired by her life. Kristen Jensen Carter, wife, mother, daughter, sister, friend, teacher, coach. Chris, you were an important part of our lives. You made them better. Let us pray. God, we don't like death, even when we expect it, even when we know it's a relief. You know that all of us touched by Chris's life are now somehow different because of her death. Because you are God, the one who both creates life and stands behind the mystery of death, we offer to you all of who we are, and we offer Chris herself. We're grateful for her life with us. And we will remember her courage, her joyfulness, her authenticity. grateful for your love, which continues to undergird all of us. We ask your special healing and sustaining presence to be with Charles, Max, Sarah, all of Chris's family, and all of us who were her friends. And as we have been reminded that we too will die, help us to remember that life is never something we simply possess as a thing. It is a gift. May we learn to value, to share, to enjoy that gift. Help us to remember that in all and with all and through all, you are our God and we are your people. Into your love, we commit. Kristen Jensen Carter. Amen. I invite you to go back to the reception hall. It's just straight back, I think, and you can continue your good words there.